Today on the Eat to Live podcast.
Precision, it's not just eating plant-based, it's eating the foods that really have the nutritional power to defend against cancer.
I was excited to call up Dr. Fuhrman and say, hey, I'm really excited about sprouts. What do you think about sprouts?
There's something about being connected to nature on that level where you're actually seeing and being responsible for growing your own food that imparts a different level of health enthusiasm.
Welcome to the Eat to Live podcast. I am here with my dad, medical expert and nutrition expert, Dr. Fuhrman.
Hi, everybody. And I'm here with my daughter, Jenna.
And today, we are not alone. We are also joined with Doug Evans, who is the founder of the Sprouting Company. So it is only natural that we talk sprouts.
Yes.
We wanted to talk sprouts today. And thank you for coming in and helping us with this conversation about sprouts, because it's something that I feel that our listeners and our audience really needs to learn about for their, because we're trying to encourage them with all the right parts, every piece of the nutritarian lifestyle that's going to impact their health and impact their ability to prevent future problems in their life or future disease.
Well, it's an honor to be here, Dr. Fuhrman. You've been an inspiration. My entire kind of plant-based life and focused on health. You helped me get healthy and helping my family get healthy. So it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you.
I think you guys are going to teach me a lot about sprouts because I feel like that's where I can really learn more.
Yes, and I think we'll start out we can get a little bit more information how Doug got into sprouts. We just want to say to start out with is that sprouts are a unique food we're going to talk about. And what makes them unique is that they produce higher amounts of the chemoprotective substances and phytonutrients that defend against cancer and slow aging and promote longevity, while simultaneously they have a less enzyme inhibitors and phytic acid that binds the absorption of those protective compounds, making that the amount of absorbable and utilizable anti-cancer substances very important and even essential when we're looking to live this anti-cancer lifestyle. So that's just the foundational. We're going to start with that. Now I want to go into more about...
Wait. Sorry. I just have to be clear on what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying that because it's like a young vegetable, it's more potent? Is that...
Yes, exactly. Young vegetables, because when the seeds start to go out, they're fragile and they're very soft and they can be eaten by insects. And because the plant manufactures a heightened level of these chemicals to prevent mold, bacteria being eaten by insects, it keeps things that are dangerous to the growth of the plant away. So the plant produces a huge amount of phytonutrients that have noxious effects for its own survival.
Okay.
As protective nutrients. It's interesting, yeah. And when the plant is young, it has all these phytonutrients with chemoprotective properties that have actually cytotoxic against cancer cells in them, and without having the factors in regular vegetables that prevent those cytotoxic and phytonutrients from being absorbed.
Wait, one more question, because I know we're going to get into it, but Doug, you mentioned the word chemo too, and because we know that from chemotherapy for cancer, right. Is that the same type of chemo?
Basically, the chemoprotective, this is protecting the body, but this is a non-chemical way. Mm-hmm. This is using 100% plant-based nutrition to keep the body young and to actually protect the body.
Yeah, like fight cancer within ourselves when they're, yes. I get that.
Yeah, that's the beauty of what we do is that I'm always enthusiastic and excited about what I do because I'm like so interested in this stuff. It's like fun for me. And it's actually learning like, what are all these compounds in food that makes the body kind of like cancer-proof?
Yeah.
And slows aging and keeps us healthy. And when you learn about them, you kind of like get fun and excited about eating the food and putting the diet together and putting it on your salad. I put this on, I put that on. It's like we call it precision nutrition. Now, precision, it's not just eating plant-based, it's eating the foods that really have the nutritional power to defend against cancer. And that's what we're...
The mighty punch.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, for me, sprouting was the last thing on my agenda. So,
Really?
So 26 years ago, 30 years ago, I was living a very toxic, carcinogenic lifestyle, eating anything. And then when my aunt developed type 2 diabetes and they performed a double amputation of her feet, was the first time I heard diabetes, and the first time I ever trying to imagine what it was like not to have my feet.
Right.
And so as I was grappling with that, my mother got stomach cancer, and we thought it was an ulcer, and she died, a couple months later. And then before I could finish grieving the loss of my mother, my father died of heart disease. And so this all happened very quickly. And my older brother, and I'm 58, my brother's 62, when I was 33, he had his first stroke.
Like in his 30s?
In his 30s. So he was 35 years old. So he became overweight, obese, diabetic. And I remember taking him, to Joel Seiden's house for some motivation. And my brother could barely move. Like we were going out on a boat, and like he didn't want to leave the couch. And so I thought like we were genetically cursed. Yeah. And then, I read your work, and I read some of work from Dr. Dean Ornish, and like the idea that you could reverse your heart disease, you could reverse your health challenges with diet was incomprehensible to me. And then someone said, hey, you could, why don't you just try this? And so literally I went from eating anything to eating fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, seaweed, and sprouts. And the sprouts were, for me, I didn't have a lot of money. So sprouts were affordable, but no one had told me anything about sprouts. There was, Steve Meyerowitz and Ann Wigmore and Victoria Skovinskis, and they liked sprouts, but I didn't relate to those people and their message. Even though I went to Ann Wigmore Institute, I went to Hippocrates, I didn't relate. And then 20 years later, I moved to Joshua Tree, to Wonder Valley Hot Springs. And
but when you moved to Joshua Tree, California, you were already on a very healthy diet.
Oh yeah, I was very, very clean. Basically following your nutritarian diet. Okay. Very clearly.
And no health challenges.
No. I mean, I lost 36 pounds. Right. My energy went through the roof. And now most people set their alarm what time they want to wake up in the morning. I set my alarm what time I go to sleep at night, because otherwise I would just keep working.
Me too. I do the same thing. I don't set an alarm in the morning, but I have a little buzzer that goes off that reminds me I should probably stop working and go to get ready for bed and go to sleep. Yeah.
I have to do that. And so I decided like I wanted to be in nature. Like there's magic of living in nature. And I was always living, in a concentrated, urban environment.
And you lived in New York City.
I lived in New York City. I lived in Hell's Kitchen. I lived in Lower East Side.
A little different than Joshua Tree.
Very, very different. And then I loved hot springs because hot springs are it's like being comforting. It's like being in the womb. And so that warm water under a dark sky, and literally you could see a billion stars where I live at Wonder Valley Hot Springs. And everything was perfect there, except I was having this existential food crisis, because not only was it an environmental desert, it was a food desert. So when I brought my family to Eat to Live and we're watching Dr. Fuhrman in the garden, I had aspirations like, oh, we can grow our own food.
For sure.
And I couldn't grow anything there.
Too dry.
Too dry, no soil, tons of critters. So everything, the seedlings would just be destroyed by the rabbits, or the kangaroo rats. And so I thought I was going to have to leave because there was no health food stores, no restaurants, no supermarkets, no farmers markets. And then the universe answered my request. Like I said, what do I do? And the universe whispered. It said, you know how to sprout. And I got chills. In the hot spring, I got chills. And I like scratching my head. And the next morning, like I had such fervor to research and to go. And then everything that I found out was like, certain sprouts like these, are 100 calories, per serving. but the legumes, the lentils, the garbanzos, the green peas, the mung beans could have 200 or 250. And so, fast forward 30 days later, in 6 jars, I was growing thousands of calories a day.
Really?
And I was living on sprouts, which is not sustainable for most people. But this was, to me, this was survival. This was like I was on the
You could
International
have something
Space Station.
shipped in. You could have some fruit, and you could order stuff that could eat things. Yeah,
I could
and nuts.
just,
You could store stuff in your freezer. You could order nuts and seeds.
yeah. But at the time, I was living in a tent.
Yeah.
So I lived in a tent for 3 years.
No way.
And when I met my wife, she moved into my tent with no running water. So we had a shovel to go outside. And then
She married a homeless person.
yeah, well, I had a home. My tent was my home.
Okay.
And
person.
yeah. So
That was the test, was can you handle the tent? And she passed?
well, we were like, our tent yurt was smaller than this room. It's 176 square feet, 13-foot diameter, low ceilings. You had to duck your head to get in. But the point was, when I was eating this enzymatically active living food, it spoke to me. No TV, no cable. And as it spoke to me, what I got was that sprouts weren't just a garnish, that sprouts were vegetables, and that seeds were complete living organisms in a dormant state. And inside the seed, it contained an endosperm and an embryo. And if you soak the seed in water, you could replicate what was happening in nature, where normally a bird or an animal would eat the seed. It would go through the digestive tract. And as it was going through, the enzyme inhibitors would come off, the phytic acids and the lectins would be reduced, and then it would go poop. And that's how nature designed its system to spread its seeds and propagate. And that's where you see things were spreading and soaking the seeds in water. And it's just really amazing. Like you take a 1/4 cup of seeds. This is 4 tablespoons of seeds will grow into 6 cups of sprouts. So you'll literally go from 35 grams of seeds to 350 grams or more of sprouts.
Wow.
In 5 days, without soil, without sunshine, without fertilizer. So you're able to grow vegetables. And that was the part where everyone thought of sprouts as a garnish. And for me, I was like, well, these are vegetables. And I was living on the vegetables. And I was like, wow, am I pitching myself as okay? And then, the foreword of the sprout book is by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, because I was excited to call up Dr. Fuhrman and say, hey, I'm really excited about sprouts. What do you think about sprouts? And an hour later, we're still on the phone, and Dr. Fuhrman's like, I got to go to another meeting, but he offered and accepted the challenge of writing the foreword to the sprout book. And then I just went down the list, and I called people, and some were plant-based, some were keto. Dr. Josh Axe is keto. Dr. Mark Hyman is functional medicine. And the thing that they all had in common is they all loved sprouts. And
Why not? It's powerful antioxidants.
It gave me chills. Like that people that I didn't know. And I'm, for a second, I was like saying, oh, if they all love sprouts, maybe they're going to write the sprout book. And I went into scarcity for a minute, but then I ate some sprouts and I went back into abundance consciousness. And I said, hey, I want to write the book. And every single person I asked for support in writing the book, from Dr. Brian Clement, like everyone, Dr. Joel Kahn, everyone was on board. And so the book, I had the idea for the book. I then contacted Oprah. I had met Oprah. I contacted Oprah's recipe developer, Lita Scheintaub. And I said, Oprah, Lita, I want to do recipes with sprouts. I want them to be all plant-based. I want them to be half sprouts. Will you do that? Oh, and all raw. And so she came up with recipes. I went to New York. And even though I had never written anything other than my name on a subway train, like I wasn't a writer, I didn't go to college, but I had this passion to share the message. We hired a chef to make the recipes. I went to Macmillan, and the publisher was literally eating the sprouts out of the palm of my hand. And then I wrote the book.
Oh, so the Sprout book has sprout recipes in the
40 recipes.
40 sprout recipes.
40 sprout recipes.
Tell us about like a favorite or two recipe, like what types of recipes that involve sprouts.
I mean, like one thing which my thesis was, since I had nothing else to work with, right? An invention, necessity is the greatest form of invention. So you can make hummus, like you can buy hummus in the grocery store, right? Or you could take garbanzo beans, sprout them, and mash them, and add whatever flavoring you want, and have a fresh, raw hummus.
Oh yeah, that's.
Do you add sesame seeds to that?
You can add tahini to it.
Well, I got to comment on that because one of the most powerful anti-cancer substances are called lignans.
Yes.
And the 3 foods highest in lignans are flax seeds, chia seeds, and sesame seeds. Now, flax seeds have 21 milligrams per tablespoon, but sesame seeds have almost the same amount, like 18 milligrams per tablespoon. So, but they have to be unhulled because that's it's like the hull. It's like the hull of the whole wheat versus white bread. Right. And tahini they make from, most tahini is made from hulled. So they're removing the anti-cancer, the most powerful anti-cancer part of the sesame seed, they're throwing away. So we make our tahini fresh from sesame seeds with the chickpeas, with the chickpea sprouts, with the little shredded horseradish, with a little bit of, we make our own. So we're trying to make it with the unhulled sesame or black sesame. There's one brand, I saw one brand of tahini that used chickpeas and black sesame seeds that were unhulled. But I just want to make that clear, listener, unhulled. But you can make great hummus to make it more nutrients and lower the caloric density by using the sprouted chickpeas. Because
look, we should do the recipe because I have a beautiful mortar and pestle, and I take the unhulled ones and I crush them in the mortar and pestle.
Oh, you're doing that now?
Oh, yeah. Like that's what I'm using because I want everything to be as fresh as possible. And so you take the sesame seeds, the sprouted garbanzo beans. You can even put some sprouted lentils in because I'm looking also for microbiome diversity. Yeah. So you could throw a bunch of things. So that's one. You can take, and I don't know what your feeling is on cacao, but you can take sprouted garbanzo beans and cacao and actually make a chocolate mousse.
Really? Oh, that sounds delicious.
Throw in a half of an avocado, light on the avocado. And so, but then, simple things. You could take, some almond butter in a piece of celery and then put the sprouts on top and then put like a little raisin. And so there's different things. Or you could make, dal and anything like lentils are already the staple of the plant-based diet around the world. Right. When you sprout a lentil, you increase the vitamin C by 300%. You quadruple the antioxidants. And so all of a sudden you're taking something that's healthy and you're making it like orders of magnitude more healthy. So any dish that's being made with that, so you can still make your curry sauce and you can make your others, but all of a sudden you're going to get a fresher texture, you're going to get a flavor, and you're going to get something that is going to be very healing from the microbiome, and the body just loves it.
Cool. What I love is, I wanted to comment on this earlier when you were talking about, hey, I could do more calories from chickpeas and sprouting this and that, different things that you wouldn't think to sprout. We all get so excited about food. It's not like we hate food and we hide from food. We are just choosing really healthy foods. And you guys are empowering me to make my healthy diet even healthier by just incorporating more food that tastes really great. So I'm just feeling empowered, which is very cool.
Yeah. Well, look, I think, eat to live, where so many people have been brainwashed and that they're just living to eat and they're fantasizing about food and about sex, right? Or about drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Sure.
So like that's their life. And when you eat this way and you're being in nature and you're being in the gardening and you're being with family and friends and children, all of a sudden your priorities shift to, you want to slow down and appreciate life. So
it's a whole different kind of high.
It really is like, what's happening right now is the obsession where everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to make money. Everyone wants to keep up with the Joneses. I have a friend, his name was Brian Miller, and his father was a billionaire named Larry Miller, and his book was Driven. Larry Miller wrote the book Driven. He owned car dealerships in the Utah Jazz, and he drove himself to death through diabetes.
Okay.
And Brian Miller changed his name to Brilliant, which is just a brilliant idea, because imagine being called brilliant 100 times a day. Hey, brilliant, 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 brilliant.
Nice.
But in that, part, he had a brother who died of alcoholism. So here, people who have all the money in the world, right, are going to the grave.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's a level of balance. And what sprouting became to me was my own sovereignty. Like when COVID hit, I had these 35-pound buckets of seeds, and we had all the food that we were giving sprouts away. We were just giving sprouts away. And the other thing which was really powerful was seeing that sprouts were food, they were vegetables. And we touched on this. They're vitamins and minerals. So 1 cup of sprouted garbanzo beans mixed with a cup of sprouted alfalfa or sprouted broccoli gives you a complete essential amino acid profile.
Really?
So you're getting all of your amino acids, similar to the way some vegetarians were mixing rice and beans. You can mix different types of sprouts to get all of your essential amino acids.
Right. We don't have to mix rice and beans, but we do get more comprehensive exposure to fiber diversity,
yes,
nutrient diversity, and amino acid diversity is no problem because our diet is so diverse, and that's the nutritarian diet is designed. I want to make 2 comments. One is that I experience some emotional contentment when I grow my own food. And when I service the sprouts using the sprouter, I enjoy growing sprouts and adding. So there's some, besides having a fruit tree or a vegetable garden, I enjoy making the sprouts and seeing them grow. And kids enjoy seeing sprouts generate and grow because they can see it grow from day to day right in front of their own eyes, especially if you have 3 jars, one that you started 2 days apart, and you could see in 1 or 2 days they're starting to grow, and then this one's growing bigger, and that one filled up the jar. And there's something about being connected to nature on that level where you're actually seeing and being responsible for growing your own food that imparts a different level of health enthusiasm and makes us more content with us living this healthy life.
And when you're eating it, I feel like you're happier and you slow down and appreciate the food that's in front of you. I think food that is grown at a farmer's market or grown myself or you grow, I slow down and I'm like, wow, this is really cool and it tastes delicious.
Right. And then the other aspect is we respect and appreciate the food. We're trying to have grateful for the outside world and appreciate the world around us. And we see the food in a way as something of beauty to be respected and appreciated.
Yes.
And we see that a baby bok choy you grew in the garden and the sprouts you made in your own sprouter are things of beauty that we can respect and appreciate. This is our feeling of our spiritual connection with the world comes through the natural beauty in these foods, and us learning the chemical structure and the science behind why it works contributes to this good feeling about ourselves.
Well, look, I see the love that you have for your daughter, right? So I see that you have a love for the things that you bring into the world and that you nurture.
Yes.
And if you pay attention to them. And what's magical about this, like I would say, this is a mystery. Like we don't fully understand the magical mystery of how plants work in this level. But what we do know is that they're healthy, and the more plants you're eating, the more diversity you have. But the fact that these grow without soil, sunshine, or fertilizer is incomprehensible. And someone, people like to, throw darts and arrows and they go, well, I don't like things grown without soil. And I was like, oh, without minerals. And I was like, no, this seed has the minerals from the soil.
Right.
And the seed has the stem cells of the plant. So what you're consuming is this concentrated part of the plant's reproductive system. And that after 1 week, then it needs to go into the soil. It needs fertilizer. It needs sun for photosynthesis. But nature created this magical window, for sprouts that you can take a seed, germinate it, and then have vegetables without. So this is
chicken's form. A little chick is made from the egg. They don't, right? It doesn't has to grow and eat food eventually. It gets big enough, but all the nutrient, the little baby chick is in the egg, the same way that's in the sprout.
That's right.
Good analogy.
It's the reproductive system. Yes, Jenna.
Well, I just had to point out, I also call the magic and appreciation for food, the environment, all the craziness that is the world around us. I call it the Avatar effect, because Avatar kind of made a really big point on how magical nature is. And it is cool once you stop and realize, I'm growing this and it's from nothing. And the no soil, I wanted to comment, is there's probably some benefit with that, especially with the extra contaminants and pollutants in our soil.
Well, it's so interesting. I had dinner with John Mackey. I'm actually seeing John in 2 weeks in Austin again. And John said...
people don't know who John Mackey is.
John Mackey was the founder of Whole Foods.
He sold Whole Foods to Amazon.
So
a lot of people do. Maybe some.
So he ran Whole Foods for 44 years.
Right.
So I said to John, "What do you think about sprouts?" And he loved sprouts, but he was also, critical. Like I said, well, why didn't sprouting ever take off? Like, why doesn't everyone sprout? And he said, well, sprouts have a short shelf life and low margin, so there's not a big business behind it. So if you look, there are no national or international sprouting companies. It is a total mom and pop niche or regional business.
Right.
And when, now we all have access to data, right? So I look at the data and you see that Whole Foods today sells 25,000 items, individual items. 98% of what they sell is processed, preservative, cooked, frozen, in a box, in a shelf, pasteurized, all of these things. And 2% is fresh produce. And out of the 2% of fresh produce, half of that is non-organic. And that means it could have parabens, it could have synthetic coatings on it, it could have some new age stuff on it. So the food system is designed for profit and for shelf life and the like.
100%.
And,
sure.
And what we're tuning into is fresh. So my vision, for sprouting is today there's 2 million farms in the United States, right? 1.9 million of those products of the farms are used to feed animals. It's not feeding humans. Right? So 90% of the calories grown in agriculture are feeding farm animals. And so I have a vision that all produce should be consumed locally and grown locally. Like, it's a travesty to take produce grown in California, put it in a truck, goes 2,000 miles over a 10-day period. By the time it shows up in the grocery store, it's dying. Right. It's lame. And so if you have a garden, I want people to grow, right? In their front yard, in their backyard, in their garden, in a community garden, on their porch, on their windowsill. And all of those things are hard. But sprouting, like, I swear I should do a whole video series of sprouting with my eyes closed. Like, it is that simple.
Let's go into this a little more, because you have the sprouter there.
Yes.
You're the inventor of this sprouting machine.
Yes.
And I've tried other sprouting machines, and I wanted people to know about this machine.
Yes.
I'll tell you why. Because I've tried, not just because you're my friend, it's because I've used other sprouting machines, and they're a pain in the butt. Well, the seeds fall through. You can't mix broccoli with lentils. You can't this is so easy, so elegant, and I've been using it, and it's definitely the best. And I want to tell people how it works and why I use it. I tried other sprouting machines.
And you tried.
I had the plug-in one where I plug it in. It's electrical, does it all yourself. It was just it's a mess.
You've been trained the Eat to Live staff that it was time consuming for your staff.
Well, they would keep. Well, you know what? I know that we want people to have mixed sprouts, and some of the seeds with the sprouts, like the radish sprouts and the broccoli sprouts, are really tiny. Mm-hmm. So these machines would only take the mung bean sprouts and the bigger sprouts because they would fall through the. And I couldn't. The ones that had the smaller things you couldn't mix the sprouts. You couldn't grow. It was only one type of sprout. It didn't taste anyway. It's so much more convenient. I can take a scoop of that mix is the mix that you make. I use. Yes. It has the alfalfa, the lentil, the broccoli sprout, and the radish sprout in there. And I can take a scoop of that. And what I do is I take a scoop of that, and I don't fill the scoop all the way up. And I take a little extra of the broccoli sprouts from the other bag, and I put that in with the mix. And I can make any combination I want, dump it in there. And he says, soak it for, I could soak it for whether I soak it for 2 hours or I soak it for 8 hours, doesn't matter a difference. And I rinse it out, I rinse it off, put it in the machine. And then all I do is when I make the dog food in the morning, when I get up to have breakfast, in a minute I just rinse them out. And the night before I go to bed, when I'm cleaning up for dinner, I just rinse them out. No work. And I got great sprouts that 100% germinate and are always fresh tasting, have no rottenness, off taste, sliminess. They're clean tasting. It's just the best quality, most efficient equipment. And I wanted you to explain why it's so simple. Yeah. And it works like that.
Well, when I wrote the book, I actually put a chapter in called Junkyard Dog, where I was taking pasta jars, mason jars. I was using cheesecloth. Right. They sell these plastic lids that go on a mason jar, on top. People were using stainless, starts off with a stainless steel screen, but it was like window mesh. So it ended up collecting bacteria and rusting.
And things getting stuck in there. These things are hard to clean out. Yeah. And it's taking forever to do it. This is just like I rinse it off, it's done, it takes nothing.
Well, so the first thing that I did was I wanted to create a filter that was as durable as like a drain in a stainless steel commercial sink. So something that was stout, that you could fill it, that would capture the smallest seed and hold it in and have that fit on top of the jar. And then when I looked at the jar, the average mason jar, has a bell, and it bows out. So when you have it at an angle, all the water doesn't drain. Right. And you don't want the seeds or the sprouts to be sitting in still water. So literally I had to go, and I wanted to have a bigger jar because I want to have a lot of sprouts. So the other jars were small. So I made a big jar. And then what happened is, my wife is the size of Jenna, similar hands, and she dropped one of the glass jars. So for a second I contract and I go, oh, well, maybe I need to make plastic. And then like every part of me just said, no plastic. Yeah. So I had to squeeze the jar and let Jenna, grab this with her little hands. But she can hold that, so we made a grip on it.
Wow.
And then we made the edges straight. So this is another point. Can I have that back, Dr. Fuhrman?
I like it.
We made the edges straight, so all the water would drain out, and we put the threads on the outside. So it took a while, and
it's smooth here.
Smooth there.
Down to the ends and nothing collects.
So all the water can come out.
Right.
And then, like, I have a lab, like I'm a hacker. So I built a lab and I tested the angles from one degree all the way up to 90 degrees. And the problem, with when you do it at 90 degrees is that the sprouts stack on each other. And I made this so you could, do it this way, but the sprouts stack on each other and they end up occluding the airflow. So when I was designing this, with a team of mechanical engineers and industrial designers, we were looking at airflow, air exchange, drainage, and then we ultimately came up, with this particular angle. And then I wanted it to be something that people would want to have, because
that's 45 degrees about.
I think this is actually a little closer to 30 degrees.
Okay.
In here, 45 was a little too extreme.
Okay.
And so when we got to this part, I wanted it to be something that people would not hide. Because when you're using, I was using iPad stands and bowls and other contraptions that I felt that the sprouts were worthy of design and beauty.
Something aesthetically pleasing.
So form follows function. So this was the process. And then the reason why the sprouts, so this is another part. And now that we have access to data scientists and AI, we're able to rationalize the data. And it turns out that if you were to take, and there's clearly more servings of chicken being eaten than sprouts, but if you were to simplify them in algebra and say how many cases per million, right? So sprouts, over an extended time period, maybe would 10 people per million might, have some sort of illness with it. Lettuce, regular lettuce from the supermarket was 20 cases per million, and chicken was like 800 cases per million. Right. But what happened is it's not even newsworthy when someone gets salmonella from chicken. Like they just expect.
Oh, because you're thinking about the people thinking they're going to get some contamination.
Yeah, and so it turns out if you get the seeds, so what we did was we said, okay, we need to get the highest quality seeds that were grown for the purposes of sprouting. Because if you could get seeds, you could get 5-year-old seeds coming from over the border that are in a bulk bin that you don't know where they are. They could be contaminated or the like. So we're getting seeds that were grown for the explicit purpose of sprouting. Yeah. Then we're taking those seeds and we are specifically measuring the germination rate. So we will not sell a seed that has not been tested for at least minimum 85% germination rate.
I just want to clarify what that is because you mentioned it before. That's how many seeds end up sprouting, I'm assuming? Okay.
Yeah, versus rotting.
Okay, versus rotting.
Because that's what I was saying. Since I've been using, I get the seed from you, I'm using your sprouter now. Yeah. And it's so much easier because now, just like it fills up, and when I open the top to take out the sprouts from my salad, I don't have leftover unsprouted seeds. Yeah. It seems to all sprout. Yeah, I have a clean, and when I clean this out, it's almost clean. When I take the sprout out of it, there's nothing, there's no smell, there's no junk, there's no rotten seeds.
About the smell.
It's all clean.
They smell good?
Yeah. Smell good, smell fresh.
Well, it's fresh. So the second thing that we do is we actually, per batch, will go through the batch, take the water, send it out to a lab to make sure that there are no pathogens or any part. And then these seeds, all of our seeds are non-GMO. 100% of the seeds are non-GMO. And all of the seeds are organic, except we have one special genetic variety that was cultivated for this high glucoraphanin, high sulforaphane, which you wanted to talk about. But in this case, being able to get the germination rate, to get the pathogen testing, to get the organic was a standard. And I just gave a keynote at the International Sprout Growers Association. I'm not a member. They invited me because I'm, breathing life into this category because I think, and I have a vision for 100 million countertop sprouters. This is a message worth sharing. And we're seeing people telling their friends, giving gifts, giving the gift of life, because anybody can grow sprouts.
You're right. This is a great gift, like a Christmas gift or something. Yeah.
Well, and it looks good, but look how beautiful that is. I mean, the fact that you get to eat all that high nutrient sprouts and grow it on your countertop where it looks aesthetic. I mean, I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, also, I have 3 of them set up in the kitchen.
Thinking I might steal one after this conversation. You grow my sprouts, but...
No, but you should have 2 of them in your house. I could have 3 of them in my house.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Between the 2 of us.
Yeah.
Because I mean, but in any case, because I have 5 people, I have more people in my house. Yeah. I have other people living with me.
Well, I mean...
Called children.
My children are significant others. They're my married, my married children.
Well, I mean, how lucky are you?
Yeah, right.
It shows because normally the kids can't get far enough away except for the holidays.
You planned it this way.
So, but the interesting thing is that a lot of people thought of sprouts as a garnish or a side dish. Out of necessity, sprouts became the center of my dish. So I make a salad with broccoli sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, radish sprouts, lentil sprouts, mung bean sprouts, green pea sprouts. So all of a sudden we're getting this enormous microbiome diversity of living foods, and then the fresh tahini dressing. So all of a sudden, like I'm getting, like it sounds incomprehensible, Jenna. I get full from eating sprouts.
Eating so many sprouts. Wow.
That's impressive.
All right. So you might be taking it to a little bit of an extreme, but that's good. It's nothing wrong with it. To have your diet be mostly sprouts. But
well, when I come to eat to live, I eat whatever you put on the table.
So most people like
sprouts, right?
What's that?
Is there on to what
I
counts as their
I had lunch today, and I had my salad with my lettuce and arugula and what I have in there. But I had I had half of a thing of sprouts, that much, and I made in the salad for both mom and me. We have it in there, and then the other half we put in the refrigerator for tomorrow's salad. But in any case, yes. I had a lot of sprouts in there, but also I had I had these delicious heirloom cherry tomatoes that I cut into thirds are in there, spreaded onion in there, delicious dressing. I think it was incredible. But in any case, that's a little
Have you made, like I have another recipe with the fresh, when you can get the fresh tomatoes like that and the sprouted garbanzo beans and the sesame seeds, you blend them up and you get this creamy, beautiful, pink, colorful, fresh, that literally, like I'm literally licking the bowl at the end. It's that good and fresh.
Oh, I have to make that. Well, I was asking a lot for myself because I'm guilty of using sprouts as a garnish because I know a little even goes a long way because they're so potent and high in nutrients. But now I'm thinking I can make a lot of really good recipes and add even more to my diet. If you're growing them yourself, it becomes affordable.
But you said something important there, that because they're so potent in nutrients and so potent in anti-cancer nutrients, let's just make it clear that even using a little bit of sprouts onto your otherwise high variety diet is still going to add extra nutritional quality to your diet. So whether you use it like you're using it, where it's the base of what you're eating, whether you're using it where you're adding some sprouts to your diet, it's still a great addition. Even a small amount of mushrooms and a small amount of sprouts and a small amount of onion, even a small amount of flax seeds, even a small amount of these things added to your diet are important to give you this full diversity of anti-cancer nutrients that gives you the anti-cancer power that we're recommending for people who follow a nutritarian lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, you get the flexibility. Yeah. You sleep well. You have beautiful movements. I mean, it's like, this is exciting to be able to live this way. And what happened is there was a level of, fear and criticism that, to be plant-based or to eat a lot of plants was expensive. So the fact that you can get an 8-ounce bag of the salad mix, which has 5 scoops of this in it, so you can literally get 30 servings of organic vegetables, homegrown, for under $15. Like it's 50 cents a serving. I mean, it's incomprehensible. So this is where the wealthiest people in the world can have the most nutritious food in the world, and the poorest people in the world can have that. What they don't have is no one was carrying this message. And so that was like, okay, like, I guess I have to do this, because I sat on the sidelines and it wasn't happening. But now we're seeing momentum. Like it's hard to actually say this, but sprouts are trending on Google. Like they're trending.
So happy.
They peaked. The book came out April 2020. And since then, sprouts have been trending.
And I'm so happy you commented on that, because I want people to spend their money on food. It's more fun than spending it on hospital bills, medications, co-pays. Like it is,
or 500 different outfits.
It is so much cheaper in the long run, and so much more freeing and better for your mental health, physical health, to chew well, eat some sprouts, mushrooms, all the good food. It's so much more fun.
So look, I know I said this, but let me make it clear how you can do this at home. Because this is a quarter cup measuring cup. Yes. And so it's, this anyway, so it's really easy to do, but because it fills up, and once you water this in the morning and night, just rinse some water in I just put it like this in the sink, pour some water in it, takes a second, pour the water out in the sink, put it back in the thing, and that's it. I'm done. All I do. I soak the sprouts in there for a few hours. That's all I do is put the water in, and at night I do that one more time. That's it. But in any case, in 5 to 7 days, this is filled up with sprouts. And then I have usually one going every 2 or 3 days. I have a new one I'm starting. But in any case, what I do is I take a scoop of the mixed salad mix, which we talked about. It has the lentils and the radish and the broccoli and the mung bean already in there. And I don't fill it up all the way. And then I take a little extra scoop of just the plain broccoli sprouts. So I add extra broccoli sprouts because we know that broccoli sprouts, it doesn't necessarily proven that they're the best, because I'm sure other sprouts have great things we don't even know about yet, but they're the most, at this point in history, they're the most heavily studied and tested in scientific literature. It's good we're not just doing broccoli sprouts alone, because we want to get a variety, because maybe 10 years from now, somebody will put money into studying how effective radish and lentils are. But right now, we know broccoli sprouts are so incredibly protective. So I add a little bit of that and I put it in, and I make my mixed sprout mix when I use my salad every single day. And that we're doing, and then on when we order the sprouts from you, there's one regular broccoli sprouts which we're using, and there's one broccoli sprout that's a little more expensive. Right. It's the high glucoraphanin broccoli sprout, and I'm saying broccoli sprouts have 50 times the sulforaphane as eating broccoli, and they're so high.
What is sulforaphane?
I don't feel the need that I have to get the super expensive broccoli sprouts with even more sulforaphane in them. You know what I mean? I think it's good enough that what we're doing. So I'm just recommending what people do. Yeah.
But for a cancer patient or more medicinal, would you say?
I don't know if they need the extra expensive, the broccoli sprouts, and even more sulforaphane over the one that was already high. Because they all sprout, they're high quality. You've tested them for it. Yeah, they're not the cheap sprouts you're getting from.
Yeah, I mean, what happened is the high glucoraphanin ones that we got were basically researched, and they were grown for the purpose of the chemoprotective properties.
The research scientists using them for cancer patients.
Correct.
So you're getting that.
And so we're the only people that are selling those. And so in the these are right now day 6. So these are grown.
Is this the mixed sprouts?
No, this is straight broccoli.
That's straight broccoli.
Straight broccoli. And on each seed has a finite amount of glucoraphanin. And when you chew or crunch or blend or freeze, you open up the vacuole, and one vacuole is glucoraphanin, and the other one is the enzyme myrosinase. And so when you combine those two, that's when sulforaphane is formed, and this is this potency. So we were measuring, and I bought seeds from every place I could buy, and I sent them out. And what made me go research to get the high glucoraphanin ones was because I bought from 2 different sources, and when we sent them to the lab, they had no glucoraphanin because they weren't even broccoli. They were in the brassica family. Yeah. So then we sent out the sequencing for the DNA, and then I said, I want to make sure that all of our seeds have the broccoli. But then when I found these other high glucoraphanin ones, and I saw how many people, there's research, and I can send you the white paper from Dr. Jed Fahey, that the high levels of glucoraphanin created heat shock proteins in the brain, which had a very hermetic effect, on the treatment. So if someone doesn't have a big appetite or they're going through different properties, you can actually juice the broccoli sprouts and you get a little shot, just like the wheatgrass shot, but of this super part. And then you can make it into a dressing and you can consume it. So I think there's some people always want the best. So I put that out there.
Maybe I should buy one of those extra, but more expensive one and mix a little of it in there.
In your little mix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that
sounds like a nice option.
Yeah. Let me just say what you said in a way, because it's connected to what we're teaching in this podcast. And that is that when you eat arugula and you eat watercress and you eat broccoli sprouts and when you eat kale, the most protective anti-cancer nutrients are formed in the mouth based on how well you chew. Because you break down the cell wall, which houses these packets of enzymes that causes a chemical reaction in the mouth. And that levels of how much cruciferous vegetables you eat is not as well correlated with protection against cancer compared to urinary isothiocyanates or blood isothiocyanates. And the reason for that is because, number one, cooking it can destroy the enzyme, can destroy the formation of those enzymes. And two, people don't chew. They swallow things whole.
That's right.
So if you're going to spend your time and your money to eat such a high nutrient salad, then you have to develop the mindfulness and the skill to chew it really well, to try to liquefy it in your mouth, to get the full anti-cancer beauty, wonder, miraculous healing properties that are in these magical foods into your body. You got to chew it really well.
Yeah.
So that's what I just want to make sure people have that message. You're going to spend all this time in making these great, incredibly healthy foods, but then you could blend them, make them into a drink or a shot.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're great on your salads, but don't forget to chew your salad very well.
Well, and also when you chew this, it's actually great for the teeth and the gums. So the resistance of the cytoplasm for the teeth, and as it goes into the gums, this is actually, there's a whole microbiome that exists in the gums. And this is low glucose, high phytonutrient. So the chewing should be a celebratory part and really slow down. I mean, you can make an app, where you hit start and then you don't take another bite until after you hear the little beep.
But it's not the time factor. It's how well people can chew slowly.
Right. So the chew counter.
It's how well they chew, how much they're liquefying. They have to consciously feel the liquefaction and feel the food is ready to be swallowed. And that takes some degree of focus when you're eating.
And if you get your whole family on board or whoever you eat with, I look at Kara all the time and I'm like, wow, she's still chewing. Okay, I need to take more time and chew slower. Or I do it slower, chew more. You really have to think about it.
We make it socially acceptable in a family to remind each other to chew. If we're talking, don't forget.
Yeah, in my family, they say chew with your mouth closed, but yours says just chew more.
I just want to chew more. I don't care. I don't care if it's open or closed. Just chew more.
He's not that picky. He's not that picky. Can I try some?
Of course.
Really?
So
I would love
we're
to.
going to wrap this up, but let anything that you, Jenna, feel that we didn't cover or that people should know about this?
I'm feeling inspired. What about you guys?
I mean, just look at here.
Oh my gosh, you're giving me all of that?
Yeah.
I'm not eating it right now.
I'm excited. I'm eating it right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot of.
All right, not the whole thing, but wow,
there's a lot of food in there, right?
That's delicious.
Yeah. I just ate lunch.
See, I love them as a snack. It's so fun.
And that's 100% broccoli sprout.
That's so yummy.
That's concentrated.
See, I love the earthy flavor of them. I think it's really cool. It's different. Have you ever tried an onion sprout?
I have. I love onion sprouts.
It's potent in a fun, zesty, blue cheesy way.
So besides the salad mix and this broccoli sprouts, do you have any other sprouts on there?
Broccoli, radish, clover.
Red clover is supposed to be good. Yeah, that's supposed to all have. I was just working on my anti-cancer presentations for some lectures I'm giving, and looking at all the research on these different compounds and how it's incredibly effective. I won't go into the science in detail, but essentially, part of the cell that cancer cells produce these receptors that drive the growth of metastatic cells, and these nutrients shut down those things and prevent these cancer cells from multiplying. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the amazing thing, and I know some of my friends I sent to Eat to Live, they had a challenge with weight, right? So the interesting thing, a lot of people now are taking the peptides, the semi-glutamate for Ozempic and Wegovy. Well, it turns out sprouts are by far the number one weight loss food because they're high fiber, low fat, low calorie. And when you fill up with the sprouts, you're actually secreting GLP-1.
We got to wrap this up.
Oh, wrap it. Okay.
But we talk about this all the time. Just to wrap it up.
Okay.
The foods that really help with weight loss, and even more so than these drugs where you could plateau, it's all these nutrient-rich foods, including
That's our message all the time.
Okay. Well,
it's really important.
I just found that so fascinating because they're now projecting that 47% of the population will be on these weight loss drugs.
Yes.
And there's side effects to it other than having like Ozempic face, which is scary, but they're losing muscle mass and they're becoming dependent, and then other internal organs, can be compromised.
Oh, it's just sick. The medical dependent society is a sick society. It's getting worse, more cancers. People have to learn what we have to, this is a lifestyle that is diametrically opposed to conventional thinking and conventional living. Gives people a different path to take in life that's much more peaceful, much more effective, much more protective. And the other way is a suicide with food.
Well, I think you give people the why, right? That they have to, open up their consciousness and understand that food is the number one addiction in the world.
And food is your real medicine, your real ability to control your health destiny is in what you put in your mouth.
Yeah.
And it's not just about weight loss. Weight loss is just a side effect of eating a really healthy diet that could give you a long health span.
Right.
So
all these things we're talking about to fight cancer interfere with weight gain and make you feel satisfied with the right amount of calories.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that if people find it fun to grow their own food, and it's affordable, and it's aesthetic, and it's nutritious, and it's delicious, we're removing all of the obstacles and all of the hurdles and making it accessible. And this to me is a dream come true. Like being able to sit here, with you and Jenna, this is a dream come true. Like I've known you for 20 plus years, and this is the first time we're sitting down, in this forum to share this message. And so thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks, Doug. Appreciate you here because it's always about giving people information and it motivates them.
Well, and thank you, Doug, too, for giving us the tools to eat healthy because you can tell us how to do it, but the tools make it so much easier.
Make it easier for people.
And we can actually do this thing.
Well, it gives me something to do. Like I play with my baby and I make some tools.
Perfect. We need it. Well, thank you for joining us.
All right. Thanks. Thank you guys for joining us, too.
Another great episode of the Eat to Live podcast.
All right,
we do high fives at the end.
Take care, everybody.
Yay.
So we get a better one than that.
Just one more. There you go.
Play some patty cake.